This video provides brief information about the bolt-action rifles used by the German Army in combat during World War I. The Gewehr 98 was one of the most important military rifles of the late 19th and early 20th centuries and a landmark in the history of firearms development. It was designed in 1898 by the famous German arms designers Paul and Wilhelm Mauser and was officially adopted by the German Empire as its standard infantry rifle. The Gewehr 98 served as the primary service rifle of the German Army during the First World War and later became the foundation for many subsequent bolt-action rifle designs around the world. The rifle's greatest strength was its extremely robust and reliable Mauser 98 bolt-action system. This system featured two large locking lugs at the front of the bolt and an additional safety lug at the rear, allowing the rifle to safely handle high-pressure cartridges. The bolt action was manually operated and known for its smooth, controlled feeding, which significantly reduced the risk of malfunctions under combat conditions. The three-position safety on the rear of the bolt allowed the shooter to lock the firing mechanism completely, operate the bolt safely, or place the rifle in a ready-to-fire position. The Gewehr 98 was chambered for the powerful 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge, which provided excellent range, penetration, and accuracy. It used an internal, non-detachable magazine with a capacity of 5 rounds, loaded from the top using stripper clips. The long barrel, measuring approximately 740 millimeters, gave the bullet a high muzzle velocity and contributed to the rifle's impressive long-range performance, making it especially effective in open terrain and defensive positions. In terms of dimensions, the Gewehr 98 had an overall length of about 1,250 millimeters and a weight of roughly 4.1 to 4.2 kilograms when unloaded. The stock was typically made of walnut or beech wood and designed for durability rather than compactness. The rifle was equipped with a tangent rear sight, adjustable from 200 meters up to 2,000 meters, reflecting the military doctrine of the period, which emphasized long-range volley fire. In combat, the Gewehr 98 earned a strong reputation for accuracy, durability, and mechanical reliability. However, its long length and considerable weight made it less convenient in close-quarters combat and trench warfare. These limitations eventually led to the development of shorter and more maneuverable variants, such as the Karabiner 98A and a later Karabiner 98K, which became the standard German service rifle in the years leading up to the Second World War. In conclusion, the Gewehr 98 was not only a highly effective service rifle for its time, but also one of the most influential firearms ever produced. Its bolt-action design set a new standard for strength and safety and continues to be used in modern sporting and hunting rifles. The Gewehr 98 remains a classic example of German engineering and a key weapon in the history of military small arms. The Karabiner 98A was a German bolt-action carbine developed in the early 20th century and widely used by the German Empire during World War I. It was a shortened and lighter variant of the standard Gewehr 98, designed to provide greater mobility and handling for troops who required a more compact weapon. The Karabiner 98A was officially adopted around 1908 and primarily issued to cavalry units, artillery crews, engineers, signal troops, and later assault units, where a full-length infantry rifle was impractical. The weapon was based on the proven Mauser bolt-action system, renowned for its strength, reliability, and safety. It fired the standard German 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge and used an internal 5-round magazine loaded via stripper clips. The bolt featured a turn-down bolt handle, which allowed faster operation and easier handling in confined spaces. Like other Mauser rifles, it employed controlled round feeding and dual locking lugs, making it extremely dependable even under harsh battlefield conditions such as mud and dust. In terms of physical characteristics, the Karabiner 98A had an overall length of approximately 1,090 millimeters, with a barrel length of about 590 millimeters, making it significantly shorter than the Gewehr 98. Its weight was roughly 3.4 to 3.6 kilograms, depending on configuration. The rifle was equipped with iron sights, typically graduated from 200 to 2,000 meters, although the effective combat range was realistically around 500 to 800 meters. A bayonet lug was fitted, allowing the use of standard German bayonets, and special mounting hardware made the rifle convenient to carry with slings or cavalry equipment. During World War I, the Karabiner 98A proved to be an effective and versatile weapon, particularly in trench warfare and mobile combat roles. Its compact size made it easier to maneuver in tight spaces while still retaining the power and accuracy of the full-sized Mauser cartridge. The success of the Karabiner 98A directly influenced later German rifle development, serving as an important evolutionary step toward the Karabiner 98B and the famous Karabiner 98K of World War II. Overall, the Karabiner 98A holds a significant place in military history as a reliable, well-engineered carbine that combined mobility with the proven performance of the Mauser system. The Karabiner 98AZ was a German bolt-action carbine developed as part of the famous Mauser Model 98 family and adopted by the German Imperial Army in 1908. The designation 98AZ comes from the German term Aufplanz- und Zusammensetzvorrichtung, which refers to the carbine's ability to mount a bayonet and to be stacked together with other rifles using a special stacking hook. This weapon was designed to be shorter and more maneuverable than the standard Gewehr 98 rifle, while retaining the strength, reliability, and accuracy of the Mauser 98 action. As a result, it became especially suitable for cavalry units, artillery crews, engineers, and other mobile troops who required a compact but powerful firearm. The Karabiner 98AZ was chambered for the 7.92 x 57 mm Mauser cartridge, one of the most powerful military rifle cartridges of its era. It used a bolt-action mechanism with a 5-round internal magazine loaded from stripper clips. The Mauser 98 action featured dual front locking lugs and a third safety lug, providing exceptional strength and reliability even under harsh battlefield conditions. This robust design made the Karabiner 98AZ highly resistant to dirt, mud, and mechanical failure, qualities that were especially valuable during trench warfare in World War I. In terms of dimensions, the Karabiner 98AZ had a barrel length of approximately 600 mm, 23.6 inches, and an overall length of about 1,090 mm, making it noticeably shorter than the Gewehr 98. The reduced length improved handling in confined spaces, on horseback, and in trenches, while still allowing efficient use of the powerful 7.92 mm cartridge. The weapon weighed roughly 3.4 to 3.6 kilograms unloaded, striking a balance between portability and stability during firing. Its effective firing range was typically around 400 to 500 meters, with iron sights graduated for longer distances, reflecting the military doctrine of the time. The rifle was fitted with a full wooden stock, protected by metal barrel bands, and included a distinctive stacking hook mounted on the barrel band, a defining feature of the 98AZ. It also had a bayonet lug, allowing it to use standard German bayonets, which maintained its effectiveness in close combat. The iron sights consisted of a tangent rear sight and a front post, providing reliable aiming for both short and medium-range engagements. During World War I, the Karabiner 98AZ saw extensive service with German forces. Its compact size made it especially practical in trench warfare, where long rifles were cumbersome. Compared to earlier short carbines, the 98AZ offered improved ballistic performance, reduced muzzle flash, and better controllability. After the war, many examples remained in service with reserve units, police forces, or were exported and used by other countries. The experience gained with the Karabiner 98AZ directly influenced later German rifle designs, most notably the Karabiner 98K, which became the standard German service rifle in World War II. In conclusion, the Karabiner 98AZ represents an important evolutionary step in military small arms development. It successfully combined the legendary durability of the Mauser 98 action with a shorter, more practical configuration suited to modern warfare. Its reliability, power and handling made it one of the most effective carbines of the early 20th century and a significant predecessor to later German service rifles. The Gewehr 88, also known as the Kommissionsgewehr or commission rifle, was a bolt-action, magazine-fed infantry rifle adopted by the German Empire in 1888. It was developed by a special military commission under the Prussian War Ministry, which is why it carries the Kommission designation. The rifle was intended to respond to the latest advancements in French small-caliber smokeless powder cartridges, such as those used in the Lebel Model 1886 rifle, providing higher velocity and improved performance on the battlefield. The Gewehr 88 incorporated several innovative design features for its time. It utilized a rotating bolt mechanism derived from earlier Mauser models, but adapted to the new cartridge and magazine system. One of its most significant innovations was the 8x57mm Patron 88 cartridge, which operated with smokeless powder and offered higher muzzle velocity than black powder rounds. Ammunition was loaded via a 5-round en-bloc clip, inspired by Mannlicher's design, which was inserted from the bottom of the magazine. When the clip was empty, it automatically fell out of the magazine. This system allowed for faster reloading, but was somewhat susceptible to dirt and debris entering through the open magazine slot. Another distinctive feature of the Gewehr 88 was the barrel jacket, a thin metal sleeve surrounding the barrel to protect it from external damage and to reduce uneven heating during rapid firing. In practice, however, moisture could accumulate inside the jacket, making maintenance more challenging. Early rifles also faced issues with bore diameter and bullet compatibility, as cartridge and barrel standards were still evolving, which led to later modifications and rebarreling to accommodate updated ammunition. The Gewehr 88 served as Germany's main infantry rifle during the late 19th century and into the early years of World War I, before being gradually replaced by the Mauser Gewehr 98. Despite this, it saw service in secondary units and was even used by some Allied and foreign forces. Historically, it represents a critical transitional step in German small arms history and played a notable role in the evolution of modern military rifles. In terms of technical specifications, the Gewehr 88 was a bolt-action rifle with a 5-round magazine fed via en-bloc clips. Its caliber was 8x57mm Patron 88. The overall length was approximately 1250 mm with a barrel length of about 740 mm, and it weighed around 4 kilograms. Its effective range extended several hundred meters, offering sufficient accuracy and rate of fire for the infantry tactics of its era. Overall, the Gewehr 88 was an important technological step in German small arms history and played a notable role in the evolution of modern military rifles. Gewehr 8805 was a German military bolt-action rifle representing an important transitional stage in the development of German infantry weapons at the turn of the 20th century. It was a modernized version of the original Gewehr 88, which had been adopted in 1888 by a special military commission rather than by Paul Mauser himself, hence the name commission rifle. The 1905 modernization was carried out to adapt the rifle to new ammunition standards and to improve its loading system, bringing it closer to the Mauser pattern that would later dominate German service. The most significant change in the Gewehr 8805 concerned its feeding and loading system. The original Gewehr 88 used a Mannlicher-type en-bloc clip, which was inserted into the magazine and fell out through an opening in the bottom of the rifle once empty. In the 8805 conversion, this system was abandoned and replaced with a Mauser-style stripper clip system. The receiver was modified with clip guides that allowed the rifle to be loaded from the top using standard 5-round stripper clips, and the opening in the bottom of the magazine was closed. This made the rifle more practical, more reliable in field conditions, and compatible with the standard Mauser ammunition supply system. Mechanically, the Gewehr 8805 remained a bolt-action rifle with a rotating bolt featuring 2 forward locking lugs. Unlike the later Mauser 98, it lacked a third safety lug, which was one of the reasons it was eventually considered obsolete. One distinctive feature was its barrel jacket, a thin metal sleeve surrounding the barrel, intended to protect it and improve cooling. In practice, this design was not entirely successful and was later abandoned in subsequent German rifles. Most 8805 rifles were modified to safely fire the newer 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser S-Patrona Spitzer ammunition, and rifles so converted were typically marked with a large S on the receiver ring. In terms of characteristics, the Gewehr 8805 had an overall length of approximately 1,250 mm, with a barrel length of about 740 mm. Its weight was around 4.1 to 4.2 kilograms unloaded. The rifle was fed from a 5-round internal magazine and fired the 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge. The effective firing range was roughly 400 to 600 meters, depending on conditions and training, while the open iron sights were graduated from much longer distances, reflecting the tactical doctrine of the era. Historically, the Gewehr 8805 served in the German army during the early years of the 20th century and remained in use even after the adoption of the Gewehr 98, particularly with reserve units, training formations, and allied or auxiliary forces. Some examples also saw service during the early stages of the First World War. From a historical and technical perspective, the Gewehr 8805 is significant as a transitional rifle, bridging the gap between earlier Mannlicher-influenced designs and the fully developed Mauser system. For a seminar presentation, it can be presented as a clear example of how operational experience and changing ammunition technology shaped the evolution of German military small arms. The Gewehr 8814 was a modernized variant of the German Gewehr 88 Kommissionsgewehr rifle, introduced in 1914 to meet the changing requirements of modern warfare at the beginning of the First World War. The original Gewehr 88 had been adopted in 1888, but advances in ammunition, battlefield tactics, and logistics made it necessary to upgrade the weapon rather than replace it entirely. The 8814 modification was intended to extend the service life of existing rifles and improve their combat effectiveness. The most important change in the Gewehr 8814 concerned its feeding and loading system. The original Gewehr 88 used a Mannlicher N-block clip, which was inserted into the internal magazine and fell out through an opening in the bottom of the rifle once empty. In the 8814 conversion, the rifle was modified to accept Mauser-type 5-round stripper clips. This required changes to the receiver, including the addition of guide rails on the top and modifications to the internal magazine. As a result, the rifle could be reloaded more quickly and conveniently, especially under combat conditions. Mechanically, the Gewehr 8814 remained a bolt-action rifle with a rotating bolt operated manually by the soldier. After firing, the bolt was lifted and pulled back to extract and eject the spent cartridge case, then pushed forward to chamber a new round. The rifle was chambered for the 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser cartridge S-Patron, which offered higher velocity and improved ballistic performance compared to earlier ammunition. Many exemplars were marked with an S on the receiver, indicating compatibility with the newer, more powerful cartridge. In terms of physical characteristics, the Gewehr 8814 had an overall length of approximately 1,250 mm, with a barrel length of about 740 mm. Its weight was around 4.1 to 4.3 kilograms, making it comparable to other standard infantry rifles of the period. The internal magazine held 5 rounds, and the effective firing range was generally considered to be 400 to 600 meters. The rifle was equipped with simple open iron sights, featuring a graduated rear sight designed for long-range fire, in line with late 19th and early 20th century military doctrine. Historically, the Gewehr 8814 saw service during the early stages of World War I, particularly in reserve and second-line units, as the newer Gewehr 98 gradually became the standard German service rifle.
Despite being somewhat outdated in design, the upgraded 8814 proved reliable and effective enough to remain in frontline use when shortages of newer rifles existed. Many exemplars were later transferred to Allied forces or retained for training and rear area duties. In conclusion, the Gewehr 8814 represents a transitional military rifle, bridging the gap between older 19th century designs and the fully modern Mauser rifles of the 20th century. It reflects the German Army's practical approach to modernization, upgrading existing weapons to meet new standards, and holds an important place in the history of military small arms development.
Karabiner 88, KA-88, was a German military short rifle developed in the late 19th century on the basis of the Gewehr 88 commission rifle. It was intended primarily for cavalry, artillery units, and support troops who required a more compact weapon than the standard infantry rifle. The Karabiner 88 represents an important transitional step in the modernization of the German Army during its shift to small-caliber, smokeless powder firearms. Mechanically, the Karabiner 88 uses a bolt-action system derived from the Gewehr 88. The bolt design was influenced by Mauser principles, but was not a pure Mauser system. Instead, it reflected the work of the German Rifle Testing Commission. The weapon was chambered for the 8x57mm I Patrone 88 cartridge, which was the standard German service round at the time. Ammunition was fed through a 5-round Mannlicher type N-block clip inserted from the top of the rifle. Once all cartridges were fired, the empty clip fell out through an opening in the bottom of the magazine. One of the defining characteristics of the Karabiner 88 was its shorter barrel and reduced overall length, which made it easier to handle on horseback and in confined spaces. Like other rifles of the Gewehr 88 family, it featured a full-length metal barrel jacket surrounding the barrel. This jacket was intended to protect the barrel, improve heat management, and maintain consistent accuracy during prolonged firing. The sights were of the open type, suitable for relatively short combat distances and quick target acquisition. In practical service, the Karabiner 88 revealed several limitations. The N-block clip system could be sensitive to dirt and debris, which sometimes affected reliability under field conditions. Furthermore, when the German Army later adopted the more powerful 8x57mm S Spitzer cartridge, early Karabiner 88 rifles were not fully compatible without modification. As a result, many were either converted, relegated to secondary roles, or gradually withdrawn from frontline service. From a historical perspective, the Karabiner 88 played a significant role in the evolution of German military firearms. It served as a transitional design between earlier single-shot or black powder rifles and the later, more refined Mauser models, such as the Karabiner 98 series. Although its service life was relatively short, the Karabiner 88 demonstrated the German Army's efforts to balance firepower, modern ammunition, and mobility. Today, it is valued mainly as a historical artifact, found in museums and private collections, as an example of late 19th century military rifle development. The Mauser Tankgewehr M1918 T-Gewehr was developed during World War I and is recognized as the first purpose-built anti-tank rifle in history. It was created by the German Empire in 1917 to 1918 to counter the early British and French tanks on the Western Front. At that time, conventional artillery and heavy machine guns were not always effective against tanks, creating the need for a portable infantry weapon capable of penetrating armored vehicles. The Mauser factory designed the Tankgewehr M1918 to meet this requirement, and it was quickly deployed to the front lines. The T-Gewehr was based on the Mauser Gewehr 98 rifle, but was significantly enlarged and reinforced. It operated on a bolt-action system, requiring the shooter to manually cycle the bolt after each shot. Its most important feature was its use of the powerful 13.2 by 92mm TÜV Tank und Flieger cartridge. This round was extremely strong for its time and was capable of penetrating the relatively thin armor of World War I tanks at ranges of 100 to 300 meters, as well as low-flying aircraft. The rifle measured approximately 1,680 millimeters in overall length, with a barrel length of around 984 millimeters. It weighed about 17.7 kilograms, making it extremely heavy compared to standard infantry rifles. The T-Gewehr did not have a magazine. It was a single-shot weapon, with each cartridge manually loaded, which slowed the rate of fire but simplified the design and allowed it to withstand the high pressures of the round. The average firing rate was about 5 to 6 rounds per minute. One of the defining characteristics of the T-Gewehr was its massive recoil. The rifle lacked any mechanical recoil absorption, and the stock had no rubber padding or shock absorber. As a result, prolonged firing could cause bruising, shoulder injuries, and even bone damage. It was typically operated by a two-man team. One soldier fired the weapon, while the others supplied ammunition and observed the battlefield. Firing was usually done from a prone position or using a support to stabilize the rifle. In practical terms, the Mauser Tankgewehr M1918 played an important role during its short period of use. It was employed on the Western Front in the final stages of World War I and proved relatively effective against early tanks such as the British Mark IV. However, the war's end and rapid advancements in tank technology meant that the rifle was never widely improved. Following the war, the Treaty of Versailles prohibited Germany from retaining or producing such weapons, and the T-Gewehr was retired from service. In conclusion, the Mauser Tankgewehr M1918 represents a significant milestone in the history of anti-tank infantry weapons. Despite its heavy weight, slow rate of fire, and strong recoil, it laid the foundation for modern anti-tank rifles and later shaped the development of handheld weapons designed to counter armored vehicles. In a seminar, it can be highlighted as a technological turning point and a key example of the infantry versus armor struggle in World War I. The Mosin-Nagant rifle, officially known as the three-line rifle, Model 1891, was the primary service rifle of the Russian Empire and later the Soviet Union from the late 19th century through much of the 20th century. It holds a significant place in Russian small arms history and is one of the most widely produced bolt-action rifles in the world. The rifle was officially adopted in 1891, developed through the combined efforts of Russian Army officer Sergei Ivanovich Mosin and Belgian firearms designer Lebel Nagant. This collaboration is the reason it is commonly referred to as the Mosin-Nagant. The term three-line comes from an old Russian measurement system where one line equals 2.54 millimeters, three lines equal approximately 7.62 millimeters, which corresponds to the rifle's caliber. The Mosin-Nagant Model 1891 features a bolt-action mechanism and a 5-round internal magazine. Cartridges are loaded from the top using a metal stripper clip. It fires the 7.62 by 54 mm R cartridge, which is powerful and effective at long ranges, and this cartridge remains in use today in some military and sporting applications. The rifle's design is simple, robust, and reliable under harsh conditions, making it particularly suitable for the cold climates and demanding combat situations of Russia and later the Soviet Union. Early versions of the Model 1891 were designed for infantry use, with long barrels and bayonet lugs built in. Later variants were adapted for cavalry and artillery units, featuring shorter barrels. Iron sights were originally calibrated using the Arshin measurement system, but were later converted to metric units. The stock was made of wood, typically birch or other locally available hardwoods. The Mosin-Nagant saw extensive service in many conflicts, including the Russo-Japanese War, World War I, the Russian Civil War, and World War II. During World War II, sniper variants equipped with optical sights became famous for their accuracy. The rifle's long service life and numerous modernizations attest to the effectiveness of its original design.
In terms of technical specifications, the Mosin-Nagant Model 1891 has a caliber of 7.62 mm and uses the 7.62 by 54 mm R cartridge. Its overall length is approximately 1,300 mm, with a barrel length of about 800 mm. The rifle weighs around 4.2 to 4.3 kilograms without a bayonet. Its internal magazine holds 5 rounds. Muzzle velocity is roughly 860 meters per second, with an effective firing range of 500 to 800 meters, although maximum range is significantly greater. The bolt mechanism is manually operated, requiring the shooter to cycle the bolt after each shot. In summary, the Mosin-Nagant Model 1891 stands out in military history for its simplicity, reliability, and powerful cartridge. Produced in millions of units, it served for decades and remains a popular choice for collectors, historians, and sport shooters alike.
The Lee Enfield Mark I was the first standard service rifle of the British Army to combine James Paris Lee's bolt-action system with Enfield rifling, marking a major step in the evolution of modern military rifles. Officially adopted in 1895 as the magazine Lee Enfield, it was developed to replace the earlier Lee Metford rifle, which had proven unsuitable for use with the new smokeless cordite propellant. The Enfield rifling used in the Mark I was deeper and more durable, allowing the rifle to withstand higher pressures and erosion caused by cordite ammunition. This change made the Lee Enfield Mark I far more reliable and long-lasting in military service. The rifle was chambered for the .303 British cartridge, a rimmed, smokeless powder round that became the standard British service ammunition for more than half a century. It used a bolt-action mechanism with rear locking lugs, which allowed for a very smooth and fast bolt operation. Although rear locking lugs were not as strong as front locking systems, they enabled rapid cycling, contributing to the famously high rate of fire achieved by trained British soldiers. The Lee Enfield Mark I fed from a detachable box magazine holding 10 rounds, though in practice the magazine was usually left in place and reloaded using 5-round stripper clips or loose rounds. In terms of construction, the Lee Enfield Mark I featured a long rifle configuration with a full-length wooden stock extending nearly to the muzzle, providing protection for the barrel and a steady grip. The rifle was equipped with open iron sights, typically a barleycorn front sight and a rear sight graduated for long-range volley fire, reflecting late 19th century infantry doctrine. Early Mark I rifles also included fittings for a long sword bayonet, allowing the rifle to function effectively in close combat. The Lee Enfield Mark I had an overall length of approximately 1,260 millimeters, a barrel length of about 770 millimeters, and a weight of roughly 4.2 kilograms unloaded. The muzzle velocity of the .303 British cartridge was around 610 meters per second, providing effective engagement ranges of over 500 meters for individual fire and much farther for massed volley fire. The practical rate of fire, thanks to the smooth bolt action and large magazine, was significantly higher than many contemporary bolt-action rifles, often exceeding 20 aimed rounds per minute in trained hands. Historically, the Lee Enfield Mark I saw service throughout the British Empire, including in colonial conflicts and the Second Boer War, 1899 to 1902. Combat experience during this war revealed both strengths and weaknesses, leading to further refinements and eventually to the development of the short magazine Lee Enfield series. Despite being an early model, the Mark I laid the foundation for one of the most famous and successful military families in history. Its combination of reliability, rapid fire capability, and effective ammunition made it a significant milestone in infantry weapon development and an important subject for historical and technical study in a seminar context. The Berthier M de Lee 1890 was a French bolt-action carbine first adopted by the French Army in 1890 as one of the earliest repeating firearms used by French forces. Designed by André-Virgile Paul-Marie Berthier, this rifle was created to replace the aging single-shot carbines, such as the Lebel Model 1874, that were still standard issue for cavalry, artillery, and gendarmerie units even after the introduction of the Lebel rifle. The French Army sought a lightweight and fast reloading carbine that would use the same ammunition as their existing service rifle but be more practical for mounted troops. The Berthier M-de-Lis 1890 was chambered for the 8x50mm Lebel cartridge, which was the primary French military round of the period and the first military smokeless powder cartridge adopted in the world. Unlike the Lebel rifle's tubular magazine, which made it difficult to shorten and adapt for cavalry use, the Berthier used a Mannlicher-style on-block clip system. This system allowed the magazine to be rapidly reloaded with a 3-round on-block clip, speeding up the rate of fire and simplifying combat reloading times. In terms of design, the Berthier M-de-Lis 1890 combined a simplified version of the Lebel's bolt mechanism with this newer magazine system. The result was a lighter and more manageable firearm, especially compared to the older Lebel service rifle, and it proved easier to operate and maintain under field conditions. The 3-round magazine capacity was a compromise. It was intentionally kept small so the magazine did not protrude below the stock and interfere with handling, particularly important for soldiers on horseback. The original M-de-Lis 1890 had a total length of about 945 millimeters, 37.2 inches, and weighed approximately 3.0 kilograms, 6.6 pounds, making it a compact and lightweight firearm for the era. Its relatively short barrel and balanced design contributed to better handling for mounted troops and artillerymen alike. Operationally, the Berthier's bolt-action mechanism featured dual locking lugs and a straight pull that locked vertically, differing in some respects from the horizontal locking systems found on other rifles of the time. The on-block clip remained in the magazine until emptied, after which it dropped out through a large opening in the bottom of the stock, ready for disposal. Originally, there was no provision for a bayonet on the cavalry version, as cavalrymen traditionally carried sabers, but later variants did include lug mounts for bayonets when infantry use became more common. The Berthier series of rifles and carbines quickly expanded beyond the first Model 1890 carbine. Variants such as the M-de-Lis 1992 artillery carbine, which could mount a short bayonet and was issued to artillery crews, were introduced. As World War I progressed, it became clear that the 3-round magazine capacity was limited compared to the 5-round magazines standard on many German rifles. After 1916, many Berthier rifles and carbines were updated to accept 5-round on-block clips, increasing their combat effectiveness. Throughout its service life, the Berthier family of rifles and carbines served extensively with French forces from the 1890s until the mid-20th century, participating in conflicts including World War I, the Spanish Civil War, World War II, and various colonial wars. It remained in service in some roles even after more modern firearms were introduced, with some units and police forces using updated Berthiers into the 1960s. In summary, the Berthier M-de-Lis 1890 represents a key transitional design in French military firearms history. It combined an effective bolt-action mechanism with an innovative, for France, clip-fed magazine system, resulting in a practical and reliable service rifle and carbine that addressed the tactical needs of mounted and support troops at the turn of the century and through the First World War.
The Lebel Model 1886 rifle, officially known as Fusil Model 1886, represents a significant milestone in the history of military firearms as the first military rifle to adopt smokeless powder ammunition. Developed by the French Army in the late 19th century, the Lebel rifle marked a revolutionary change in small arms design and had a profound impact on military tactics and firearm technology worldwide.
Its development was largely driven by France's desire to maintain military parity with other European powers, especially after the introduction of advanced rifles using smokeless powder by other nations. The rifle was designed by a team led by General Louis-Nicolas Auguste Lebel and Lieutenant Colonel Gras, and it was chambered for the new 8mm Lebel smokeless powder cartridge, which offered higher velocity, flatter trajectory, and reduced fouling compared to traditional black powder rounds. The Lebel 1886 is a bolt-action rifle featuring an 8-round tubular magazine located beneath the barrel, which allowed for relatively rapid fire for its time. Its bolt-action mechanism is robust and reliable, although somewhat slower to operate compared to later designs with detachable box magazines. The rifle's overall length is approximately 1.32 meters, 52 inches, with a barrel length of 80 centimeters, 31.5 inches, and it weighs around 4 kilograms, 8.8 pounds, making it manageable for infantry use. The use of smokeless powder gave the Lebel cartridge a muzzle velocity of approximately 660 meters per second, 2,165 feet per second, allowing for effective engagement at ranges up to 400 to 500 meters, although the rifle could technically reach targets at longer distances. Its long barrel and stable construction contributed to notable accuracy for its era. One of the key innovations of the Lebel rifle was its adoption of the 8x50mm smokeless powder cartridge, which not only increased the effective range and penetration, but also significantly reduced the visibility of gunfire due to the lack of heavy smoke, providing a tactical advantage on the battlefield. The rifle also incorporated a long, slender bayonet that could be affixed to the muzzle, reinforcing its role as both a long-range firearm and a close combat weapon. Despite its advanced ammunition, the rifle's design retained some features of earlier models, such as a tubular magazine, which eventually limited its adaptability and rate of fire compared to rifles with detachable box magazines that appeared in the early 20th century. Throughout its service life, the Lebel Model 1886 underwent several modifications, including changes to the sights and minor adjustments to the stock and bolt mechanism to improve reliability and handling. It saw extensive use during World War I, where it became the standard-issue rifle of the French infantry. Despite the emergence of more modern rifles, the Lebel remained in service in various capacities through World War II, particularly in colonial and secondary units due to its robustness and the vast quantities available. Its historical significance lies not only in its technical innovations, but also in how it influenced subsequent rifle development across Europe and beyond. The Lebel Model 1886 is remembered as a pioneering weapon that combined smokeless powder technology with practical military design, bridging the gap between 19th century firearms and the modern era of high-velocity rifles.
The Mannlicher M1895 is a bolt-action rifle developed and adopted by the Austro-Hungarian Empire, designed by Ferdinand Mannlicher in 1895. It was based on earlier Mannlicher designs, most notably featuring the on-block clip loading system, which became a hallmark of Mannlicher rifles. The M1895 served as the primary service rifle of the Austro-Hungarian Army during World War I and was also used by several other countries, including Turkey and Bulgaria. The rifle is distinguished by its unique bolt mechanism, which is simple, robust, and allows for smooth and reliable operation. Its feeding system uses an on-block clip, which holds multiple rounds together and is inserted as a single unit into the magazine. Once the last round is fired, the clip is automatically ejected. This design allowed for faster reloading and efficient use in combat. The Mannlicher M1895 has an overall length of approximately 1.25 meters, 49 inches, and weighs around 4.3 kilograms, 9.5 pounds, making it relatively manageable for a soldier in the field. Chambered in 8x50mm R Mannlicher, the rifle offered good accuracy and stopping power over long distances. Its iron sights were adjustable for ranges between 200 and 2,000 meters, allowing for effective engagement at varying distances. The construction of the rifle was simple and durable, capable of withstanding harsh weather and battlefield conditions. One of the main advantages of the Mannlicher M1895 was its reliability and speed of operation. The bolt action was smooth, and the on-block clip system enabled relatively quick reloading compared to other rifles of the era. However, the rifle's weight and length could limit rapid maneuverability, and compared to modern firearms, it had a slower rate of fire due to its bolt-action mechanism. In conclusion, the Mannlicher M1895 stands out as a classic Austro-Hungarian bolt-action rifle. It was a reliable and effective weapon in its time, particularly during World War I, providing soldiers with a sturdy, accurate, and functional rifle. Its bolt design, on-block clip system, and long-range accuracy make it historically significant and an interesting subject for study.